Good morning, everybody, and welcome to ESO Daily. I am your host, Mystic Raven. All right, guys. Once again, just on here, I'm going to be doing a random event daily. Still working the CP. I'm currently at 369. I'm hoping to at least get in mid 400s before Morrowind's release. That's what I'm hoping for. So, I'm just trying to, knock it out. And keep in mind that, I play on two different platforms. So, I'm trying to do what I can with what I got as far as time. So, there's going to be a couple things I'm going to be hoping to do when Morrowind's released. And I really kind of want to focus today on that conversation. Because a couple of my plans, let's pick up the dailies first here. White Gold Tower, that would be badass, actually. If I can get pretty good group. Banished Cells, I don't know which one this one is. One or two. One. Oh, nice. Okay. Kind of needing this one as well. Anyways, guys, so, and once again, I'm just going to go ahead. I'm going to go in Dungeon Fighter, and I'm going to go to random, and I'm going to hit that vet random. Alright, so a couple of the things that I'm hoping to do is get all the healer builds updated. Right? Because of resource management, how everything's going to apply, that's my main goal. I'm kind of more known for a lot of my healer roles, even though, I do have tank builds and I have all these other things going on. Getting a lot of my more known builds up to date and adjusted for Morrowind. There will be a couple new builds I'm hoping to cover as well. Given the fact of these changes, I will not be putting out my Warden build right away because I'm going to be hitting Battlegrounds really hard. Why? Oh my god, why, guys? I just did this yesterday. Why does everybody queue this? I mean, Zos, man. This is killing me, man. This is killing me. Jeez, Mateezas. I live in this dungeon on randoms. I swear to God. It's such a pain in my butt. Let me switch out one skill. Actually, I got to do that whole thing because I was farming again yesterday. So, let me get all this going on here. Anyways, yeah, I go farming, and it's kind of funny because, I don't use the same rotation, but when I go farming, it's just, oh, okay, I'm going to go ahead and go get this, go get that. But, yeah, so, anyways, I'm not going to be putting out any of my Warden builds right away. I know a lot of people will probably be looking forward to me doing some stuff with the Warden, and I will. I'm just not in any type of hurry to get it done because I'm really looking forward to the Battlegrounds. And given that fact, what I'd also like to do, depending on how well things work out for me, I'm also going to give a couple of heads up to players who's been first-time players in BGs. And I just want to kind of give, some players some insight of what's going on, if they're having problems. Now, I will not be doing pre-made groups right from the rip. I'm not excluding the idea of being in a pre-made team. I just want to have the opportunity to, try to get as many queues as possible. And you typically, when you roll pre-mades, the way they're saying the system's going to be, now, once again, I can't talk about anything that's going on in test. But initially, pre-mades are not going to be able to roll with pug teams, meaning you'd actually have to wait in queue for another pre-made. And for me, I don't want to have to go through that right away. I want to kind of completely dive into it. That's kind of what I always did in MMOs. I was a huge Battleground player. So I'm really looking forward to it. A lot. So I will be trying to maybe cover. I don't know why I even hit that. I'm hoping to cover some of the battleground stuff, especially for new players. Also, another couple of things that I'm looking at is, besides updating my builds, and besides, I won't be covering any of the some of the content that's going on in the new expansion. I imagine there's going to be people. I'll watch out for it. But, I have tested the new trial. I've been in there. So I have been. And I can't talk about it, but I've been in there. I've tested a couple of things here on the test. So, and I'm not going to be covering really any of that because I'm anticipating other players are going to be doing that. And once again, I try not to do what other players are doing. So, ideally speaking, he's lost. Line of sight. Come on, man. Stop. Line of sight, guys. Just pull him. Kite him. I swear I live in this dungeon. This isn't even a tank, I don't think. Oh, yeah, it is. So, yesterday it was kind of funny. My random on my tank I got was Vet Tempest. And some of the people had a problem with the last boss, and we had it down to like 15% when everybody died to her little thing because they got knocked in, whatever. I was the last man standing. And because where they were located, I couldn't res them. I could not get them up for nothing. And I was like, screw it. I'm going to go ahead and finish this off myself. And I did. It took a little longer because I was on my tank, obviously, but I got it done. And I was really happy with it. I was like, okay, sweet, And they were like, God mode, and I was like, I wouldn't say that, but yeah, I mean, I kind of know what I'm doing here. And it was on my Sork tank, and yeah, I'm happy with that build, that broker build. Love it. I mean, it's not as beefy as some of the other tank builds for sure, but what it offers me, I enjoy it. I can play it really well. Try to stay away from these holes in the ads as much as possible. It's another thing I'm a little worried about, too, with Battlegrounds coming out. I can't talk about a lot of things, but one of the things that, it really has me overall concerned is how certain players, okay, so they've worked a lot of things, and there's a couple balance issues. I honestly think after, some of the patch notes and stuff, they've done some really good stuff with, going over light attacks, heavy attacks, really kind of incorporating, more user-friendly applications on your weave rotation. So I'm really happy with that, taking a look at it. A couple of the changes I'm kind of, I don't really have a feeling towards, because I really have to kind of see how it's going to be, how it really is going to play effect in the and when it goes live. I can honestly tell you from test, everything looks good. I haven't tested this week, but I go over some of the patch notes and I read it and I make sure. Okay, yeah, right. I honestly think that Templar tanks are crazy. I mean, I loved my Templar tank, and I did, and I do when I rolled tank with him. He was pretty badass. The amount of mitigation and the self-sustains is just unreal. But the problem of it is in PvP, and I'll talk about Cyrodiil here, just in the application of Cyrodiil, not even the battlegrounds. It's like God mode, man. I mean, seriously, it's crazy what the Templar tank can do, right? And I honestly think there has to be something done on PvP side, but unfortunately, there's nothing you can do. See, I'm one of these people, I don't want you to nerf something for PvP and it affect the PvE aspect. And I think in the PvE aspect, the Templar tanks need that. They kind of play like a paladin role, right? And you can't change them on that because that's their functionality. But in Cyrodiil, they're like unstoppable. And I was telling my friend, we were going over a couple of things. Now, he's a DK tank. And I was telling him, I'm like, man, he's hard to kill. And you got to debuff tanks, guys. You just have to. If you're not debuffing tanks, don't expect to take them out. You have to. That's where the poisons come in, man. I mean, it's kind of a very important thing to remember that if you're not using debuffs now, especially coming up, you're really screwing yourself on some of these situations. But the question of it is, which debuffs do you use? That becomes a really good question, because now you got tons of different, you got sets that debuff, you have poison debuffs, you got glyph debuffs, you have abilities that can debuff for the stamina Nightblade. And you have to understand, okay, what do I need and what will I go with, you know? So, excuse me, by the way. It kind of becomes a very good question, but I was telling my friend who's a tank, DK tank, he's really hard to beat, and as far as taking him down, and I'm like, dude, you should see these Templar tanks, man. They are crazy. They're nuts. And a lot of people are like in trials don't want to roll with Templar tanks. I've been in trials with my Templar tank. I haven't done like a vet maul on my Templar tank, but he's fine. You know, he serves a function. You know, he's able to get through without any problems. And the amount of the mitigation with the self-sustains, just unreal, just unreal. You know, and I tell people, man, I don't know why you guys are so like anti having this tank type or that tank type. Each of them play so well. The devs do such a good job, honestly. And at the end of the day, man, I told my dude, like, the Templar tank in PvP is just ridiculous. It's literally unbelievable. But how do you fix it? How do you address it? How do you address that issue without affecting the PvE version of the build? I don't know, man. Honestly, here's my opinion. We have cutbacks in everything in Cyrodiil, right? Right? Our heals are cut. Also, sets have cut effects. So why not cut the effect of mitigation? I know it sucks. Like, have a hard cap for your mitigating effects. Not like a cut. Just have a hard cap. Put a hard cap in place. I think that's how you fix it. Because you can't cut it in half, because then DPS is going to get stomped on and you still have the same problem. If you have a hard cap, at least in Cyrodiil only, in PvP only. At least now it's more realistic, it's more doable without affecting the PvE build. And I think that's something that maybe ZOS should be taking a look at and addressing and saying, hey, you know what, maybe we should put a hard cap on resistance. I'm not saying an armor rating, don't get me wrong. Hey man, armor rating, whatever. Impen, whatever. But yeah, as far as like resistance, just put a hard cap. That's my opinion. I'm not saying they should, and I'm not saying everybody likes the idea, because to be honest with you, if I was rolling tank in Cyrodiil, I wouldn't want it, having a hard cap, obviously. But with all the self-sustains and mitigation that the Templar has, it's even with the changes, man, it's unbelievable. They need to forget the nerf bat. Like I was telling, I posted under Fang, I was like, forget the nerf bat for the Templar tank. Freaking take a 2x4. That thing needs a 2x4 to it. Not a nerf bat. Nerf bat's too soft. Come on. No, I don't have a merchant.
What?
How many times do I have to tell you not to rewrite Orion's texts? It's incredibly irritating.
I still need the Lich Shield though. It's the one thing I'm only missing from this place. Drop rates sometimes for certain things can suck. What kills me is somebody had mentioned one time, oh, you probably doing only 8k DPS per second. I was like, what, on my healer? Because my healer does about that per second on top of his heals. Right there, like 12.3 on my DPS per second than my heals, but then when I go and switch over, it's whatever. And somebody had mentioned, the restoration staff, heavy attacks dealing too much. I don't believe so. The reason being, Blessed has got cut. Okay, so let's talk about this. Okay, they've cut Blessed cap. They're promoting more weaving, right? The restoration staff deals the less amount of damage, right? Well, what happens now is they're trying to promote you to weave. When you do a heavy attack, right, look, it heals the percentage of the damage back to my party. Just weaving, right? See it? So what they're trying to do is increase the damage of the restoration staff to increase the healing of the staff's capabilities. That's what they're trying to do. And I actually agree with that. I think, some people will say it's too much, it's too over the top. It's not. Not really when you think about it, because resource management becomes a very important role now more than ever, especially for all the healers. So this becomes very, very much an important fact. So I actually agree with the devs. I mean, they'll decide if it's too much or if it needs toned down. But honestly, guys, from a healer's perspective, I kind of agree with what's going on here, because given the fact that you're going to have to weave more, you're not going to have that major mending up all the time. The reduction for major mending on all classes has been kind of, adjusted to the point where you have to work for your major mending more often. And you're going to have to keep HOTS. HOTS become more considerable. It's not all instance-based healing. So, you know, you're going to have to know your rotation, your HOTS. You're going to have to be able to maintain resource management. And the weave on the restoration staff just becomes that much more detrimental in your rotation for a healer. Especially Nightblades. Nightblade, you have to weave heavy anyways to get your major mending. That's how the Nightblade healer works. Once I get my major mending, then I always do my rotation on my siphons. That's how I maximize. Okay, I'm going to start working this dude a little bit. Does DPS ever know that they can actually go ahead and, you know, hit this one dude? Now, see, when you guys notice I'm in full heal and I'm not trying to burn down ads, my DPS will slow down. Now, my healing will never cap over what's needed. So there's no overflow. So at the moment, I'm healing 11,700 and something per second. But that's only what's needed. There's no overheal read on the metrics. Never is. DPS, there's no such thing, but oh shit. I'm not paying attention to my siphon. Sometimes I get a... Trying to get him a ball here. Okay, I'm going to start throwing out a lot more utilities here to keep them up as much as possible. I don't really focus too much on the utilities on the heavy end. It's usually on the down end when it needed the most. Okay, hit this war horn, get these buffs up. Get that up, throw out the utility. Now, the nice thing I like about healers, I can adjust my rotation accordingly to the mechanics, what's going on. I don't ever get set pretty much on a constant because that can be bad. It's not like DPS where you're always trying. As long as the tank can hold, you can go through a nice solid rotation without too much of a worry. You have to avoid some of the base mechanics, but pop the potion, siphon up, throw out. Weave it up again. The war horn for the burn. Get out of this. Hit the pot. Strikes. Throw out the utility. And then get it. Put it on his back end. Ah. Okay, there it is. Let's see if I got anything better. Sturdy. Ebony shield. Let me see.
Do you feel that? The others are returning.
I don't know where you found your new friends.
See if anybody got a lit shield.
They don't seem to fear death. It's admirable.
They can speak to that better than I. But they've bested my husband's minions. We owe them everything.
Indeed. By the Empyrean light, I didn't know Narayan had tortured so many of us. That whoreson dog.
Easy, Feindor. He'll pay
He's
when the
looking.
time comes. But we don't want you rushing off to die.
Our
Again.
friends killed his Daedric pets.
Or not.
He may come looking for us, and we need to be ready.
Once again, sorry guys, I don't know, whatever, but let me go over the champion system. So, as you guys can see, I was at 368, now I'm at 371. So, and I ended up getting 2 champion points out of that. Or I was at, must have been 369, but 2 champion points doing the random. And you do that times 3, because I have 3 bets. That adds up, that's about 6 champion points between 3 characters that I'm able to grab a day just from doing, these bet randoms or normal randoms, either way. But yeah, I'm going to be covering quite a bit of stuff. I'm hoping with my with the updates for the builds. So I will be working all my builds. I'll be working my DPS builds. I'll be working my healer builds, especially my healer builds. I'll be updating my tank builds, which I only have like 3 tanks currently. But I'm hoping to get into my 4th tank and possibly my 5th with the Warden once it releases. I, will later on in the future get into the Warden tanks, the Warden healer, the Warden DPS builds. So I'm really looking forward to a lot of different things that I'm going to be able to do. But right from the rip, I will let you guys know. I will update the builds. That's my #1 priority right from the rip as much as possible. But opening week, I'm going to be focusing a lot in Battlegrounds. Once again, I'm competitive. I'm just a big Battleground player. And I will throw out a couple of videos after a couple of days on Battlegrounds. Kind of give you guys tactics. Kind of give you guys what's going on. Because then I'll be allowed to. And I'm not going to be giving out builds, but I'll give you guys, kind of heads up what's going on with Battlegrounds. So, yeah, it's just something I'm really into. I'm a huge Battleground player, and I'm going to be pugging some Battlegrounds, and I'm looking for a team. If I'm getting in a team, and I told one person, if I get in a pre-made, I'm looking for a specific type of players. I will say that. It don't have to be like the best of the best, but I want a cohesive team. Meaning, what class am I going to bring? What do they have? What's needed in that team makeup to make it work? Because, when you go in on pre-mades, you want to have as much, cohesive interaction between each other. What buffs are you offering? What buffs do they offer to keep things up and organize team play? So, and I'm definitely not against it because I played arena style PvP before, but I'm definitely looking for a specific type of setup for group play if I'm getting on a team, a dedicated team. But most of the time I'll be pugging, so that's most of the time. So it's just the way it is for me. I know how queue systems work for Battlegrounds most of the time, and if you're going to be highly competitive. If you're going to be competitive against other teams, that's one thing. But if you're going to be competitive in an overall stance in Battlegrounds, typically it's not your best interest to be in a team, unless they have separate leaderboards for that, which I don't know if ZeniMax will be doing down the road or not. I don't know their intentions. I have no idea. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes. But yeah, there it is. Just my random vet. What I'm hoping to cover. If you have any questions or comments, post below. I want to thank you all once again for watching. And once again and always, have a nice day.